Welcome back, fellow K-Knights, to part 15 of my Let's Play Vampire the Masquerade Redemption featuring the Age of Redemption 2012 mod. I decided I was going to do something a little different with part 15 than I initially intended. I was going to feature the next 4 parts as a grind sort of introduction, and in a way I'm still going to do that with part 15, but I am not going to do each character. I'm going to do all the characters at once, and as you can see, there's a few changes here. Our gear is all loaded out now. We have pretty much acquired everything that I intended to acquire through a lot of my grinding that I did. I went back to the Teutonic base and did that, and it was actually really frustrating. I tried recording it a while back ago, and it was really frustrating to record, and I didn't think it would have made a very entertaining video in the long run, so I decided not to go with that. So let me talk a little bit about my loadout though, and what I have acquired. Now, first off, from the previous episode, I acquired the Ankern sword. I have given that to Christoph. This blade is pretty much all he needs to dominate every level at this point. He is seriously the dominator of the level. He can pretty much handle anything. He'll jump forward with celerity, potence, and majesty at this point, and just cut a sloth right through him like a hurricane. He is like a hurricane now, literally. Pretty much everyone has been built back up. I've had to deal with a lot of frustration with delusion, especially during the last episode, but I also dealt with it quite a bit during my grinding. And I will actually show you some of my tips and tricks of grinding in this episode, and we'll talk about a few bugs and cover as much as I can of the planner as well, because it's long overdue to talk about the planner. I also want to talk about this big delay that I had. Let's just say, when I was going through the video, I did part 15 a while back ago, and quite frankly, I may seem scatterbrained now, but I was seriously scatterbrained when I was going through and trying to edit that video, and I was like, what was I thinking? I couldn't even complete a sentence, and I wasn't even using real words half the time. It I don't even know how to describe it. It was partially entertaining, partially disconcerting, especially to me, because I could see a lot of frustration in my voice at the time, and it actually reflected why I had disappeared for like a week and haven't launched any additional videos of this series for a while. So I apologize for the long delay. Yeah, and let me get back to my scatterbrained here. I was talking about my loadout here, and I was talking about Christoph being the hurricane with the Ankern sword. Essentially, he doesn't need to feed anymore. This weapon does all of the replenishing of blood for him. His attacks are highly effective now. I've spent quite a bit getting him built up. He is a lot higher than the 100k that I intended from the previous episode, but I wanted to get everyone up to 100k, so I stuck around. Serena was definitely further behind than everyone for some reason. I wanted to get Serena up there, and I picked up quite a bit of loot as well, and I've also gone through the shops considerably over and over to make sure that they have the discipline items that I wanted. That was something I probably should consider fixing for Age of Redemption 2012, is I actually did a lot of save scumming to get these discipline items to appear in the shop, and sometimes I thought maybe I should just use the console and just add the damn things because it almost felt like I was still cheating either way. But overall, I did get all of the discipline items that I wanted for Crystal. He is maxed out on the efficiency of his discipline casting. For example, Celerity costs 30 blood to cast. Okay, so his blood is now at 143. If I cast Celerity, it is 137. So that is that essentially made Celerity cost what, 6 blood? 6 blood. That's it. It is no more expensive to cast than blood healing, and with his Ocarina sword, he will quickly gain that blood back during combat and literally dominate the field. And this is pretty much the preferred method a lot of people play when they get to this point in Vienna, and once you get the Ocarina sword, it's pretty much a hurricane fest. You're running through every level like a hurricane now, and you're just dominating everything. Kristoff is essentially the god in the coterie here. He is now he's the frontline fighter. He is more powerful than anything. And that is, in a lot of ways, the point. That is the big point. But it does need a lot of balancing, because I've been thinking about all these other disciplines I've been acquiring for Kristoff, and he hasn't really spent much into it. So I haven't gone fully into the obfuscate area, and I don't really use obfuscate that much, but it might actually come in handy. Excuse me. Anyway, yeah, so I didn't spend much into Cloak of Shadows. He doesn't use it much. It may come in handy when we reach later in the game. Excuse me. Also, yeah, I need to consider getting his feet up an extra point. I want to make his feeding even more effective. And difficult to resist. I also want to get his fortitude up a little bit more, but I will do that during the Haas to Hexy mission. But for now, in this episode, I'm not only going to talk about the loadouts and my characters and how I built them up, but I'm also going to talk about how I built them up. And I will show the levels at which I had gone back to, that I've returned to do some grinding with the enemy respawn feature, and explain why I highly would recommend everyone stick with the enemy respawn system, and why it's so important to supplement the enemy respawn system, especially with the dilution feature, because dilution can be it's a game changer. It is seriously a game changer, and it is designed to balance out the prospect that you're going to be going down several times over and over again in this game. And if you're using enemy respawn, it's really meant to supplement with that, so that you'll be encouraged to go back, grind a bit, and get your stats back up. And that's pretty much why I have had dilution built in the first place, why dilution was a feature added. It was meant to balance that out. So anyway, I talked about Kristoff here. I got him some plate mail, some full plate mail, some full helmet. It seems to work out pretty well, especially supplemented with his stamina, which is a good defense against bashing and lethal damage. So that's 50 on top of the 60 here and the 110 there. So essentially his defenses are at 110 against bashing and 160 against lethal with that stamina. So that is actually a pretty good defense for him. So talking about Wilhelm here, as moving on to Wilhelm, I decided to give him some dodging gauntlets to help him avoid taking damage in the first place, and supplement it with his dexterity should make him a little harder to hit. he has I gave him the shield, which gives him a pretty good amount of bashing and lethal defense. So he with his lower stamina, he definitely, he is actually just as high, if not a little bit higher in defense than Kristoff, because he has the shield and he has the dodging gauntlets. So essentially he has a full armor set to supplement with his lower stamina. So that should come in handy. That makes him a lot tougher in the front lines. And he has a flame sword, as you can see, all flamey and all that shiny stuff. Anyway, for his disciplines, I got him built up quite a bit because he seriously suffered during all those missions where he went down several times and suffered delusion, and he still has a lot of suffering in his mental stats around here. And of course his stamina is, I think it defaulted initially to 35. I'm glad it hasn't dropped significantly since then. I spent a lot of time getting his social stats up to par with Kristoff. In a lot of ways, he's very close to Kristoff, other than his manipulation being slightly lower. Other than that, he is in pretty good shape. I have maxed out his Cloak the Gathering so that when he decides to use it, it won't be a significant loss of blood, and supplemented with some of the discipline rings. I gave him a couple of discipline rings and a discipline amulet, so that will actually stem the cost as well. And at this point, to keep the action going, I decided to give my coterie some vitae for this. So I am breaking my rule, mainly because I would really prefer to add an enforcement to such a rule in Age of Redemption 2014. It really seems like it was so arbitrarily set up, and it made the game rather long and tedious, longer than it should be, more tedious than it should be, because the way the disciplines are balanced right now is everything's really expensive to use. Everything is very expensive. Everything costs enormous amounts of blood, pretty much. You're spending blood on every ability that you're using, and unless you're putting some serious dots into that ability, it's you're going to keep spending that blood over and over and over again. And the way it's balanced now, it's very expensive, even with all of these discipline items. Like, moving on to Serena here and talking a little about her abilities are also very expensive. She uses them very liberally. She's very liberal about its use. Like Plague Wind costs 20 every time you cast it. She'll use it like 5 times in a row, and that's 100 blood right there. But she's supplementing it with discipline items, so she's got the full set of discipline discipline artifacts. So she has the discipline amulet, discipline bracelets, and the full set of discipline rings. So that is making the cost stem down quite a bit, but she is seriously using up a lot of blood, even as she is with all of the cost reducers. So I have given her some blood items too, some pretty hefty blood items, so she can stay in the action and still be useful. I've also made it to where her feeding ability is really high up there, so if she does happen to run out of all this blood and she needs to feed, she has a fairly decent amount of wits and a pretty good feed level, so she should be able to latch on to anyone who is feedable, who is in her range, and is convenient enough to attack with that. So that should keep her running. So for Eric, Eric has been given Fortitude gauntlets to supplement with his Fortitude. This should make him extremely difficult to go down, because not only that, he has defense against everything with these Fortitude gauntlets. I mean, not just an additional defense against lethal, bashing, aggravated, but it also supplements with the effect of Fortitude. So that defends against everything down below here, in addition to his armor and his stamina. So he's going to be a hard one to put down at this point, and I I've made sure that he also has a flaming sword. I was going to say something about Feral Claws, but I don't think he will be using them as much. So he has 4 dots and Feral Claws. I may consider having him switch out from the flame source, but I want to show something off during the Haz to Hexy. But that will likely be in the next episode. That won't be in this episode per se. This is more of a recap. This is also to talk about how grinding is going to work in Vienna, what type of ways you can build up your characters and to get them to this level before going to the Haz to Hexy and just go through it like a hurricane. And that's what I intend to do in part 16, is go through the Haz to Hexy like a hurricane. Just destructive force of unstoppable power. That's what I want to do. Overwhelm the mages, because that's really the only logical way to go about it. Alright, so first off, when it comes to being able to grind in the Age of Redemption 2012 mod, you can actually go back to the Stephan's Dome. It is unlocked, and you are able to actually use the Walk the Abyss while there. So that's been enabled at this point. But I've noticed a couple of bugs, and I'm going to show them as I proceed through the Stephan's Dome with my coterie. Now, I left the timer very close to its end on this level, so I'm likely going to clear it out again. So I want to get into position before the ghouls respawn. Make sure everybody's got a pretty good amount of blood. Yes, okay, so, right. Probably want to give a little bit more to Eric before we proceed. Though his abilities are not very costly right now, and his tactics are actually very conservative. He is really holding his own, even though he has limited abilities in this game. So it'd be interesting to see how they all perform in the long run, and see how they handle Haz to Hexy later on in part 16. But they should be able to handle this level fairly well. I set them to attack mode by pressing A, and I'm likely going to, during these last few seconds, start activating some of my powers. And here we go. Alright, so no contest there. Alright, as you can see, he is definitely a hurricane now.
Burns me to ash. Stand and deliver. Stand and deliver. It burns me to ash.
Oop, that guy has a flame sword, awesome. Okay, I can take 2 out of them, I think.
Stand and deliver.
I'll get my Majesty back on. Definitely want to have that power. Eric also has a pretty good ability with his animalism. He can just quell the beast on the enemy, and that throws him off. See that? He just threw off a ranged fighter, and they were unable to respond to us charging in on them. Right, so, continuing on here. What's the timer up on this one? Okay, it's fairly close. Yeah. Probably just gonna rush through this one for now, because I wanted to show at least one bug that causes kind of an odd issue. Let's see here. Okay, just had to edit out that train there. Yeah, every time a train passes by, it makes it it really makes me even more stuttery and scatterbrained, and it kind of makes it difficult for me to form a complete sentence sometimes, so sorry about that. But here's the issue here, and I'm sure you can see it right off the bat. Orsi's still here, and apparently when I walk near these stairs, well, just observe.
Thou hast serviced me well. I am in thy debt. Alas, I did not become the greatest merchant in Vienna by paying my debts. Such expenses unbalance my tidy ledger books. Besides, I should like to deliver the news of the Lessombre's death to the Duke myself. Take them away.
And yeah. Also, well, at least I didn't lose my equipment. It just teleports you here. So, I guess something needs to be done about that, because it makes it where I can't do a rematch with Luther Black, and if some people wanted to do a rematch with Luther Black, they can't go up those stairs to do it. So I also remember that I actually left some discipline items up at the top of those steps. If I recall right, in a previous episode, I may have done that, but I can't access them anymore. They are lost forever, and at this point, I got some new ones, so I'm pretty much all set. But that is a bug that needs to be noted in the planner, and it will be fixed for the 2014 release. I'm also going to talk about this level while I'm here, because yeah, these Zombu, they continue to respawn, and you can feed off of them, by the way. You can feed off of this one here, and they just simply don't go away, and they keep they keep spawning over and over and over again, like a constant blood source. I mean, well, I guess in a way that could be kind of a a cheat for those who are low on blood and want to get their blood back, but it's also a bug. I mean, it's duplicating them pretty much to infinity here, so I need to look in the code and fix that for the Age of Redemption 2014, because that's really not configured correctly, and that's not how it's supposed to work. Alright, so moving on. These doors here, these trap doors, I'm trying to make it to where all of these doors don't have any more collision when they're opened, and I apparently missed this one when I did it, so I want to make an adjustment to this door and any other doors that run off of these trapdoor scripts, and make it to where they won't block navigation. Like, for example, if you... Oh, wait, about the... Okay. Like, for example, he will... Well, he got around this time, but yeah, see, like, for example, this guy's being blocked by the door, and I've been trying to fix that in Age of Redemption. It's kind of goofy. It is really goofy that they're getting stuck on the door when they're trying to get at you. This should not be an issue with later versions of Age of Redemption. This is something I intend to fix. Navigation of the AI is very important. Having a functional AI, having a powerful AI is very important. So these doors cannot be an obstacle, and I know it's coming at the cost of being able to close certain doors, but you can't close this door anyway. You can't manipulate it. It doesn't do anything. So I'm clicking on it, and I'm clicking on it. It's not doing nothing. So it has no purpose once it's open anyway. So it needs to have its collision disabled, so it doesn't cause a problem once it's open and it's done and over with. If it's closed as a trap door, then yes, it should have its collision and keep anything from getting in and out. But once it's open, it shouldn't still be blocking anybody like it does. So clear this area up. Oh, took a hit. I don't know how much of a hit. Yeah, not too bad, not too bad. Okay. Found a blood pouch. I'll take it. Alright, so... I know I put in the planner that I wanted to do something about treasure, and as you can see, there's a lot of stuff dropping around here, and it might be a little too much. It might be there's a lot of clutter after a while when you're grinding through a level.
Tend me.
Oh, I think somebody's found a spider. Alright, there we go. Alright. That almost got him, but alright. At least you can knock him off of their heads when a spider jumps on your coteries head. You can actually knock it off the head. You just keep attacking it. Let's see here. Just trying to make sure I got this all cleared out. Alright. Got another there. Okay. But as you can see, you can keep going back and forth in these levels and grind over and over again. And it obviously built up a lot of clutter, and that's something I need to fix in later releases. Where the treasure may not be replenished so often, or at least not on every single enemy that has a weapon, that has a sword or whatnot. Or I could come up with a different method of acquiring treasures that are on the ground where there's a way to clear that out, or maybe over time the treasure will disintegrate or something. Maybe when the enemy respawns, they will disintegrate the treasure around them, maybe. So if you're taking too long to pick up any treasure, when the enemy respawns, they'll do a query in the area of any objects that are on the ground and just remove them. I'm thinking that could also require me to do some changes on the on any stray items that might be in the immediate vicinity. Looks like I have an area. See, here's another door that has a collision to it as well. And notice that it's blocking one of my coterie members from getting in. So he had to kind of... He got lucky. He lucked out. He didn't get completely stuck on it. Take him out. Alright. Cool. Alright, so that was the last remaining enemy in this area. Alright, so I'm gonna proceed on forward here. So yeah, I'm thinking when it comes to treasure chests, there's a lot of treasure chests and barrels and stuff that tend to be lying around at times, and I tend to wonder if I might want to move those as well, kind of, especially on the level preceding this level might need a little bit of adjusting. I'm just gonna grab some vitae and some gems and coins here while I'm on my way out. Yeah, there's just a number of things that I can do. There's a lot of things that can be done to really fix up these levels and essentially make this a better game overall. There's a lot of things that can be done. So if there's any gripes that you have about the original vanilla design, it could be on the table pretty much, most of it, within reason, of course. But there is the possibility of upgrading graphics too. I mean, it is fully possible to tweak up the graphics a bit more, have some higher def textures, stuff like that. I'm also thinking about doing something different with these spawn pets here. That actually looks like like something that's meant for rituals. That looks like a kind of a ritual location. Seems like a Tremere should use that for something different, like crafting or whatever. But okay, for example, here on treasure chests, going back to treasure chest issues, these treasure chests are kind of out here in the open, and essentially they're obstacles in a combat arena. So when you have players trying to move around, they'll get stuck on them. You can't walk over them. So there's a chance that if things get spread out and a lot of combat's going on, and somebody gets scared and they run off into a corner, if they recover and try to come back, they'll get stuck on the chest. So I'm thinking, I don't know why these chests aren't moved up here into these little holes here, these little openings. I mean, it kind of seems like that would make more sense, wouldn't it? I don't know why they're on the ground and not up here. I don't know. Maybe the developers thought that players would miss them. They don't want people to be observant of the environment or something. I don't know why they put them on the ground and not up here. I'm thinking that could be another thing I could do, is just move those up, and that way they're not affecting navigation. See, we got more of them here, so that's definitely up to consideration, where I could just move these chests up in these locations so we could just have a treasury of sorts, and this would be a really good place to get some goodies. Is in these treasury rooms, because this really looks like a treasury of sorts, because this is also where you get the Onkern blade. And it just kind of reflects that this is where all the goodies are kept. Yeah, like the Onkern section. Thinking about what else I could probably do in this area. Can't really think of anything immediately, but if you have any ideas of what can be changed in these areas, just let me know. The objective, of course, is to keep it with the Diablo feel, with the intent of having a lot of enemies to clear out. Noticing that when you open this treasure chest, it kind of it clips into the wall behind it. I might want to move this treasure chest as well, because it's clipping into the wall when it's opened. Doesn't look right. I don't know. So it's a lot of perfectionism that could be done. A lot of changes in that result, in that area. Okay, so this is an area that I have definitely looted quite a bit. I went through here and I grinded massively, and this is what I'm talking about on clutter. It's like, oh my god, that's a lot of clutter, and it's really hard to get stuff that you would prefer to get. Like, I was thinking maybe you can use like a discipline or something that would allow your coterie, or maybe allow your entranced subjects to act as pack rats. So when they die with all the loot, they'll drop it all down. But you can have another pack rat by using entrancement on someone, and they'll carry it. They'll carry this stuff for you. They'll pick it all up. Because I don't know. It's still kind of a fun idea to have all these weapons drop off, but it's also might be a cool idea to have it to where there's a chance that some basic weapons will be broken, and there's also a chance that you will lose these weapons. You'll lose a lot of the loot on the ground when the enemies respawn, and that's the only time. That's it. I think logically that would be the only time items that are on the ground would be cleared out. And I'm thinking predominantly that it could just be weapons and not just general items. Just a thought. It could affect everything, or it could just clear out the weapons when an enemy respawns, and just query through that area. Because you also want to be careful about stuff that's already built in the world too, because What if somebody's standing, what if an enemy's standing next to an item that wasn't dropped by them, that wasn't dropped by the death of a respawnable enemy? Then what would you do then? How would one determine the difference between an object that was already placed in the world and an object that was spawned in the world after you killed an enemy? So that's something to consider. So I don't know if it's a good idea to have it clear out the items and then accidentally clear out an item that was hidden. So got to be careful about that sort of thing too. So I could also limit it, but it's all about design too, because if I don't want that to happen, then it's probably best that I don't place anything important near a respawn zone. Maybe place it in a chest, because chests won't be affected. Chests will drop their items like normal. And another thing about chests, I can also make those respawnable too, and just have that be part of the system of randomization. So you can have it where you can keep going back and searching specialized chests. And I'm also thinking about making chests more rare, not so common, like the big chests like that are up here upstairs. I got like 60 seconds before the respawn timer kicks in, but I could clear these guys out pretty quick. Like these chests here, I'm thinking this could be the only location where those chests are located at, and then have a boss here. Maybe a better placement of bosses at this location. And I'm also thinking it might be a good idea to, I don't know, create more conservative amounts of enemy spawn locations. Alright then. Yeah, another train. So anyway, got 16, 15, 14, okay. Timer's counting down, so I'm going to prep myself here. And press A to set to attack mode. And... I'll take this guy out. Got enough flame swords to do it. There we go. Alright, there we go. Refresh that effect.
Hold! Hold!
Come on. Really? There we go.
To the abyss with thee! To the abyss with thee!
Yeah, I'm definitely thinking something needs to be done about managing the treasure of these areas. Yeah, my blood is barely registered here as being used, and he just replenished it in that specific instance. Okay, you're beheaded and you're still attacking me. That's hilarious. Hilarious.
Hold! To the abyss with thee! Hold!
Nope, picked up a weapon I didn't really want to pick up. Alright.
Hold!
Oop. Ah, you hit me again. Dang. There we go. There we go. This thing is chopping off heads. Did I just fail? I did.
Hold!
Okay. Right.
Hold! Hold!
There we go. Alright, so that was cleared fairly quick. Let's see how much experience I gained out of that. I got another 3,000 experience to spend here, so... Yeah, definitely definitely a good place to grind, to gain experience and grind and build yourself back up. Especially if you've been suffering delusion, it's a very good idea that you come back to these locations. And that's why I unlocked them. Also note that, again, Walk the Abyss has been enabled into this location. So you can head back to your haven. Notice that I have a timer clicking here as well. I had a few oddball issues happen in this haven. This is the other bug I wanted to talk about. Apparently there was something bugged about this haven. I don't know what it is, but it's causing another train. Holy cow. Anyway, it was causing my effects to end. It wasn't a revive. It wasn't reviving my characters. It was, however, causing effects like entrancement to suddenly and abruptly come to an end when I transitioned back and forth from here. And it happened, the first time it happened, I was actually doing part 15, a previous version of part 15, that I was at the Stephan's Dome, and I was doing some grinding there, and I was attempting to use Walk the Abyss, and the moment I used Walk the Abyss, when I was at level 2 of the Stephan's Dome, it immediately caused all my entrancements to end, and all of my entranced subjects attacked me and killed off half my coterie by the time I was able to get back. It really caught me off guard. And it was a really frustrating video. It was really one of those things where I had to take a step away from the game for a while, and that was why I was absent for at least a week. I actually decided to play a different game. I was playing Dead Island for the past week, and I finally beat Dead Island. And I know a lot of people have some really bad things that they say about it. It is a really terrible PC port. If you don't have a Xbox 360 controller, I would not recommend you trying to play Dead Island on the PC. It does not work very well with the mouse and keyboard. It causes massive screen tearing. Its vertical sync disables, and the frame rate goes down considerably.
Hold!
Oh, one of my guys went down. Not good. Was that Wilhelm? It was, wasn't it?
I am awake.
Okay, it looks like Wilhelm lucked out. Okay, it looks like Wilhelm lucked out. He went into torpor, but I don't see any message about
Stand thy ground.
dilution. So, woo. Okay. Yeah, this is one of those things that really. Here I'm gonna. Oh, kill this guy a few times.
Come hither. Come hither. I died. Come hither.
This is also a great way to quickly gain experience.
I died.
Just get that experience on back.
Hold. The abyss. Hold. Come hither. The abyss. Hold. I died.
That's bloody one I have. Definitely have quite a bit. Yeah, so there's that. That was definitely one of the cheats I did. How much experience did I gain out of that? I got 5,000 now. We all got like 5,000 out of that. Alright, so anyway, that's pretty much what I wanted to talk about in this episode. I wanted to talk about wanted to talk about grinding. I did not do what I intended to do with this episode. I wanted to feature like one-on-one grinding with each of the characters, and I was going to cover like the strengths and weaknesses of each character. And I could here. Let me step on out here before I do a quick talk about that. Here, switch to defensive mode here. Let's huddle up and have a little word about each other. One of the things I was okay, get that dog to shut up. Just get on out of here. Okay, get my train of thought back in order here. Okay, can't have that dog howling. Just annoying. Anyway, one thing I noticed about Eric, especially, I tried starting with him on a previous version of Part 15 that I was going to do a grinding sort of fest on each of the characters, and Eric was seriously at the time he needed the whole group to help him out, and a lot of his abilities really don't work too well in solo. I mean, if you were trying to play in multiplayer with a gangrel, it would be very difficult to play through these levels unless you were really way up there on ability, especially with Quill the Beast, and that's a very useful power, especially for Eric. He uses Quill the Beast and keeps a lot of enemies off of us, and it's a very useful ability for him, and he uses it quite liberally, especially when it's needed most, especially against ranged fighters. One of his biggest weaknesses at the time I was testing him is, of course, his use of blood initially, because the way Fortitude and the way Feral Claws were configured at lower levels, and the way I was getting hit by Delusion, I was trying to use Feral Claws at like level 2, and it was just costly on every battle. I mean, it's only it only costs 5 blood at this level. I think that's because its cost has been reduced because I'm at .4. I think Feral Claws cost like 10 blood initially on lower levels. So it was like 30 blood in every fight. It cost him like 30 blood per kill in a lot of situations because it just didn't last long. I didn't even have Celerity up at the time. I was trying to grind him, and it was really frustrating. There was a lot of things that were going wrong, and I was completely unaware of some of the bugs that had occurred. I don't know if any of my beta testers actually went back to Stephen's Dome during the single player testing. I hear there wasn't a whole lot of grinding from a lot of my beta testers. They were mainly testing progression and making sure they could progress and test the AI out as they progressed. So apparently each person has a different method, and that's cool. But definitely discovered a couple of bugs when going back to Stephen's Dome, like having to go all the way back to the Teutonic base, being taken captive again, but not losing your equipment the second time, but not also being able to go up the stairs and talk to fight Luther Black again if you chose that path. If you chose to open the sunlight for him, open the skylight, then you wouldn't get the option to go back there. I mean, you wouldn't get the option to fight him again and again because he would be gone completely. But anyway, all right. So other than Eric was the big one that I had to talk about. I mean, a lot of people know Serena. They know her strengths pretty well. If you played Vampire the Masquerade Redemption, she is pretty. she is the dominant vampire in the group because of her mage-like abilities. I mean, she is the mage and the necromancer in the group. And who doesn't like having a powerful necromancer with lore of flames? You know, who doesn't want that? It's probably why she's a big favorite in the Vampire the Masquerade Redemption game. I need to sell off this sword. I also need to identify it. It's a Dread Great Sword. Okay, no big deal. I also got a couple of rings that you might want to identify here. Why don't you take those? Okay, I got... another thing about when you kill bosses, they have a higher chance of spawning artifacts. They'll spawn artifact rings and jewelry, other, stuff like blood necklaces, serenity rings, stat enhancers. Here, let's take a look here. Yeah, that's another serenity ring, and this is a blood bracelet. And that's a ring of charisma. So you have a chance when you kill a boss to acquire more of those items, and that's another way to gain discipline items, because they will also drop discipline items sometimes. So they do have a chance of doing that. Let me give these guys some blood, and I will prep for part 16 of my Let's Play Vampire the Masquerade Redemption. Let me see here how much blood has been used here. Maybe interesting enough, she's been using quite a bit. Okay, I'm gonna give this back to... Actually, at this point, I rose Eric's manipulation up to 55, so I think he's gonna be our primary salesman from here on out, and he's gonna be talking to the shops. Talking to the shopkeepers. So, yeah. I'm going to go do that. And then I will see you in part 16. Well, ta-ta for now.